It was one of those quiet evenings where the house felt heavier than usual. The kind of stillness that made you notice every creak of the floor, every breath, every unsaid word. I was in the kitchen rinsing out a mug when I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned to find her standing there, my stepdaughter Emma. She wasn't dressed any differently than usual. Hoodie jeans, hair tied back. But there was something in her eyes that made me stop what I was doing. It wasn't fear or sadness. It was something else, something harder to name. We've been through a lot over the past few years. Emma came into my life when she was only 10. I still remember the first time she called me by my name instead of just, "Hey." The early days were full of awkward dinners, unspoken walls, and the occasional shared smile that meant more than either of us could admit. Slowly she let me in. Slowly, I learned to care not just because I had to, but because I wanted to. But that evening, something changed. She leaned against the counter, avoiding my eyes at first, like she was choosing her words carefully. Then she looked up, lips pressed tightly together, and I noticed a small tremble in her chin. She bit her lower lip, a habit she always had when nervous, and then said it. Quiet but clear. "I'm not a little girl anymore." The words hit me like a wave. Not because of what she said, but because of the weight behind them. It wasn't defiance. It wasn't attitude. It was truth. A truth she needed me to hear. I didn't know what to say right away. I just stood there, drying my hands on a towel that suddenly felt useless. The room felt smaller. Or maybe it was just me shrinking inside, trying to grasp how quickly time had moved. Emma had always been mature for her age, but tonight, she was asking to be seen differently. She didn't explain what brought this on. Was it something that happened at school? A conversation with a friend? Or maybe it had nothing to do with the outside world. Maybe it was something she had been carrying around, waiting for the right moment to speak. I wanted to ask. I wanted to understand. But I also didn't want to break the moment by saying the wrong thing. Because when someone opens their heart like that, even just a little, you have to be careful. You have to listen more than you speak. The silence between us stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full of tension, yes, but also of something real. A turning point. A shift. And just when I thought she might say more, she pushed off the counter, gave a small nod and walked away, leaving me alone in the kitchen with only the echo of her words and 100 questions I didn't yet know how to ask. What did she really mean by that? And what was she trying to tell me without saying it outright? That's where everything changed. I stood there for a while longer, staring at the doorway where she'd just disappeared. The kitchen suddenly felt colder, like her words had pulled some invisible thread that unraveled the familiar comfort of our home. I replayed her voice in my head, asterisk, "I'm not a little girl anymore." Asterisk, it wasn't just a statement. It felt like a door quietly closing behind her, and I didn't know whether I was supposed to follow or stay on the other side. Emma had always been complicated, even when she was younger. Not in a difficult way, just layered, like she was always thinking 3 steps ahead, even when she didn't say much. When her mom and I got married, Emma had just turned 11. Her dad was still in the picture back then, but barely. He called on birthdays sometimes. Promised visits he didn't keep. I never tried to replace him, I knew better than that, but I did my best to be there. Every school pickup, every lost tooth, every parent-teacher meeting. I was present. I thought that was enough. But Emma wasn't the type to open up easily. She didn't talk about feelings, not directly. Instead, she showed them in other ways. Like the time she made me a birthday card out of notebook paper when she was 12. Or how she used to wait up for me if I worked late, just to say good night before heading to bed. That was her way of saying she cared. Lately, though, things had shifted. She was quieter. Not cold, just more distant. I figured it was part of being a teenager. Wanting space, wanting to grow up. But tonight, the way she looked at me, it was like she needed me to see her differently. Like something inside her had changed and she didn't know how to explain it yet. I walked down the hallway slowly, passing by her room. The door was slightly open, light spilling through the crack. I thought about knocking, asking if she wanted to talk, but something held me back. Maybe it was the fear of hearing something I wasn't ready for. Maybe it was respect for whatever space she was trying to create. Either way, I kept walking even though every part of me wanted to turn back. Later that night, I sat on the couch, the TV playing some background noise I wasn't paying attention to. My phone buzzed. It was a message from her mom, working a night shift at the hospital. Asterisk, all good at home? Asterisk, I stared at the screen for a second before replying. Asterisk, yeah. Emma's quiet tonight. Asterisk, she replied with a heart emoji and an asterisk. She's been going through a lot lately. Be patient with her. Asterisk, that last line stuck with me. Be patient with her. It made me realize that maybe there was more going on than I could see. Maybe tonight wasn't just about a teenager trying to grow up. It was about something deeper. Something she hadn't found the words for yet. And just as I started to let my guard down, thinking maybe the night would end in silence, I heard her bedroom door creak open. Her soft footsteps again. Then she said my name from the hallway, quiet, unsure. I turned toward the sound, heart beating a little faster. Something told me this wasn't just a small talk moment. She was about to tell me something that could change everything. She stood there in the hallway, not stepping in, just hovering near the edge of the living room like she wasn't sure if she was welcome. Her arms were crossed, eyes down, one hand nervously pulling at the sleeve of her hoodie. I muted the TV and waited. I didn't want to push her. Whatever brought her out of her room at this hour, it had to be big, at least to her. I couldn't sleep, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded and patted the couch beside me, not saying a word. She hesitated, then slowly walked over and sat down, keeping just enough distance to show she wasn't entirely comfortable yet. We both stared at the silent screen, neither of us ready to break whatever invisible line hung between us. After a long pause, she finally spoke again. Do you ever think about what makes someone grow up? That caught me off guard. It wasn't the kind of thing you expect from a teenager, especially one who barely says a word these days. I looked at her carefully, not wanting to answer too fast. Sometimes, I said. I think it's different for everyone. She nodded slowly, like she had already thought that through on her own. Then she glanced sideways at me. It's not just about age, right? No, I said. It's more about what you go through. And just like that, something shifted in her posture. She uncrossed her arms, her fingers stopped twitching. She was getting ready to open up, and I could feel the tension rise between us again. Not the kind of tension that feels threatening, but the kind that means a truth is about to surface, one that's been buried too long. There's stuff I haven't told Mom, she said suddenly, and I don't know if I should. I don't know if she'd even believe me. My chest tightened. This wasn't small anymore. This was deeper than I had imagined. I didn't interrupt. I just kept my eyes on her, waiting. She glanced down, took a shaky breath, and then bit her lip again. That same look from earlier was back, guarded but needing to be heard. Someone at school. Well, someone I trusted. He made me feel uncomfortable. The room felt like it stopped breathing. I didn't speak. Not because I didn't have a million questions, but because I knew she was testing the waters, seeing if I'd react, if I'd get angry, or worse, dismiss her. But I didn't move. I just waited. She kept going. It's not just that. It's how everyone treated it when I tried to say something. Like I was just being dramatic. Like because I'm not a little kid anymore, I should be able to handle it. That sentence hit hard. She was caring more than I thought. The distance, the silence, the subtle changes, they all made sense now. She wasn't just growing up. She was being forced to. I could see the walls she'd built around herself, and now one brick had been removed, but the rest were still standing. And behind them, I had a feeling there was more than either of us was ready for yet. The room felt smaller with every word she spoke. I could hear my own heartbeat. loud in the silence that followed her last sentence. Emma sat stiff beside me, hands clenched in her lap, her eyes flicking from the dark TV screen to the floor, never once meeting mine. I wanted to say something, anything, but the weight of her trust held me still. If I said the wrong thing now, I knew she'd shut down completely. Who was it? I asked gently, my voice careful, low. She didn't answer right away. Her jaw tightened. A few seconds passed before she said, "It doesn't matter. He's older. People like him get away with stuff like this all the time. And if I say his name, everything just gets harder." The way she said it, so certain, so tired, made my stomach twist. This wasn't a one-time moment. This had been building for weeks, maybe longer. She had been carrying it alone, pushing through her days pretending everything was normal, pretending she was just another teenage girl dealing with school and moods and growing up. But underneath that, something darker had been sitting, eating at her. "I don't want Mom to worry," she added. "She's already got enough on her plate." That struck me hard. Emma had always been the type to protect others, even if it meant burying her own needs. Her mother working long shifts, balancing bills, making sure everything stayed afloat. Emma saw it all and she carried it like it was her job too. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "You don't have to protect her from this," I said carefully. "And you don't have to deal with it on your own." Still, she didn't respond. I could tell her mind was racing. She was questioning everything, whether she should have spoken, whether I'd understand, whether anything would change if she did. That kind of doubt doesn't come from nowhere. It grows from being ignored or dismissed too many times before. "I wanted to tell you earlier," she whispered. "That's why I said what I said. About not being a little girl anymore. I didn't know if you'd see me differently after." My throat tightened at that. She wasn't just afraid of not being believed. She was afraid of losing the version of herself I'd known. The girl who still curled up on the couch during storms. The one who used to ask me to braid her hair on picture day. She thought this would change how I saw her. And in a way, it had. But not the way she feared. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the windows like quiet warnings. Inside, the air felt thick with everything unspoken. I reached over not to hug her, just to rest my hand gently over hers, letting her know I was still here, still listening. Then came her voice again, softer now. "He said no one would believe me. That people like me always get ignored." That sentence hung in the air like smoke. And that's when I knew we were standing on the edge of something much bigger than either of us had expected. I didn't move my hand. I kept it there, firm but gentle over hers, feeling the tension in her fingers as she tried to keep control. Her eyes were fixed on some spot on the carpet, but her mind was clearly somewhere else. The weight of her words, asterisk, "People like me always get ignored," asterisk, kept echoing in my head. It wasn't just a fear. It was something she'd already come to believe. That belief didn't come from one person. It came from a pattern, from being dismissed one too many times. "Emma," I said slowly, "I believe you." She blinked, finally looking up at me. Her expression didn't change much, but something behind her eyes shifted, just a fraction. Like she wanted to believe me back, but didn't know how to yet. That moment of stillness, that fragile connection, was shattered seconds later when her phone buzzed on the arm of the couch. She flinched and quickly grabbed it, shielding the screen as she read whatever message popped up. I saw the way her face drained of color. "Who is it?" I asked. She hesitated, locking the phone and holding it tightly against her chest. "It's nothing." But I could see the panic behind her calm. Her hands were trembling now, and she wouldn't look at me again. I sat up straighter. "Emma, talk to me." She hesitated, then stood quickly, pacing a few steps toward the hallway. "He messaged me again," she muttered, back still turned. "He knows I've been distant. He said if I talk, he'll make it worse." That sharp twist of anger hit me low in the gut. This wasn't just about a past moment, This was still happening. Ongoing. Active. He was watching her, monitoring her reactions, trying to keep her quiet. That changed everything. Emma, I said firmly, I need to see that message. She turned around, eyes wide. No, she said instantly. If he finds out I showed anyone, I don't know what he'll do. Exactly why we can't ignore this, I told her. He's counting on your silence. You already did the hardest part, you told me. Now let me help. But she backed up another step, clutching the phone like it was her only shield. You don't get it. It's not just him. There's more. If I bring this out, others will get dragged in. People I care about. I don't want to ruin everything. I froze at that. Others? What do you mean, others? I asked carefully. She hesitated, then whispered, I'm not the only one. That stopped my breath for a moment. A second plot twist I hadn't seen coming. This wasn't just one girl's painful secret. This was a bigger problem, possibly something that stretched beyond her, affecting others who were just as scared, just as unheard. Suddenly, everything felt bigger. The quiet tension in our home, the strange changes in Emma's mood, the fear behind her eyes. It wasn't just hers. It belonged to a group of kids, maybe friends, maybe classmates, all tangled in something deeper, darker, and more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. And the worst part? It still wasn't over. Emma stood frozen, breathing shallow, her eyes filled with that quiet panic I'd come to recognize. She wasn't just scared for herself anymore. She was scared for whoever else had been caught in this. And for a split second, I understood the pressure she'd been under, carrying not only her own pain but pieces of others too. She was just a teenager, but in this moment she looked older than I'd ever seen her. We have to do something, I said. Not just for you but for the other girls. Or boys. Whoever else he's hurting. Emma swallowed hard, the phone still clutched tight in her hand. After a long pause, she unlocked it and handed it to me. My hands trembled slightly as I scrolled through the messages. They weren't just uncomfortable, they were calculated. Manipulative. Full of subtle threats disguised as concern. And worse, they weren't new. They went back weeks. I took screenshots and forwarded them to myself. All while Emma watched silently, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to stay small. You did the right thing, I told her. I promise you're not alone in this now. The next morning, I made the call to the school first. Then to her mom. I expected disbelief, panic, chaos. But what I didn't expect was how quickly it all unraveled. Turns out, Emma wasn't the first to come forward. She was just the one who finally had someone to listen. In the days that followed, other names started surfacing. Students. Quiet ones. Ones who, like Emma, had been brushed off when they hinted something was wrong. The school launched an internal investigation, and within a week, the man behind the messages, an older tutor, someone trusted with student mentorship, was suspended and under formal review. Parents gathered. The media picked it up. And through it all, Emma stayed steady, even when it felt like the world was turning upside down. But just when it seemed like everything was heading toward resolution, we got another message. This time it wasn't from him. It was from one of the other students involved. A girl Emma barely knew. Just someone she'd passed in the hallways. The message was simple. Asterisk, thank you. I didn't think anyone would ever speak up. Asterisk. Emma read it twice, then handed me the phone with a small, tired smile. In that moment, I saw the weight lift off her shoulders just a little. Her bravery hadn't just changed her story. It had opened the door for others. And then, just when I thought it was finally over, Emma sat down beside me one night and said, There's something else. Something I haven't told anyone. Not even you. I turned slowly to look at her, my heart sinking all over again. Someone helped cover it up. Someone high up. That final twist landed like thunder. The surface had cracked, but underneath, the roots ran deeper than we thought. The storm wasn't done yet. For a long moment, I just stared at her, trying to process what she just said. Someone helped cover it up. The words sat heavy between us, shifting the whole picture again. I wanted to believe we were past the worst of it, but Emma's voice, calm and certain, told me the truth was still buried, just deeper than before. I didn't press her right away. I waited. And eventually she told me everything. It wasn't just the tutor who had sent those messages. When one student had tried to report it months ago, an assistant principal quietly shut it down, calling it a misunderstanding, and warning the girl not to ruin a good man's career. That's when Emma realized the system itself had cracks. People who were more worried about reputation than protecting the kids. Together we decided the truth had to come out. We gathered everything. Emma's messages, the stories shared by other students, and now this detail about the cover-up. With her mom's full support, we reached out to a local reporter known for handling sensitive cases with care. The article that followed didn't just shake the school. It opened eyes across the community. Parents demanded accountability. The assistant principal resigned under pressure, and a formal investigation began not just into the tutor, but into how complaints had been handled. Emma didn't want attention. She didn't want to be seen as a hero. But in the end, that's exactly what she became. For the students who felt voiceless, for the parents who'd missed the signs, and for a school system that had looked the other way for too long. In the weeks that followed, something changed in Emma. Not overnight, but slowly. The tension in her shoulders eased. Her eyes didn't dart away when someone spoke to her. She started talking more. At dinner, in the car, even just in passing. It was like she'd reclaimed a part of herself that had gone quiet for too long. One night, while we were sitting outside watching the sun go down, she turned to me and said, "I'm glad I told you. I didn't think you'd understand at first, but you listened." That stuck with me. Listening, really listening, was what made the difference. Not fixing, not judging, just being there when it mattered most. That was the real lesson in all this. And for me, the biggest takeaway wasn't just what Emma survived, it was how she grew through it. When she bit her lip and told me, "I'm not a little girl anymore," I didn't realize then what she meant. But now I do. She wasn't just growing up. She was standing up. For herself. For others. For what was right. Her story reminded me that sometimes courage doesn't come with loud voices or big moments. Sometimes, it's in the quiet confessions at the end of long days. And sometimes the strongest people are the ones still figuring it all out, one step at a time. That night, as we sat in the quiet, I didn't need to say anything else. She knew I was proud. And that was enough.